Welcome back, everybody. We're doing math today. Last time we were measuring to the nearest half inch, but we're going to get more accurate and more precise today, and we're going to measure to the nearest 1/4 of an inch, or the nearest 1/4 inch. So first, let's look at something similar to what we did last time. You can remember how you filled in the number line last lesson? So look at each whole. So here's a whole from 0 to 1. Remember, these are my whole numbers. Think about how many parts that's divided into, right? Think about how many parts each whole is divided into. Each, or every whole is divided into 2 parts. So think about if a whole is divided into 2 parts, what's the unit fraction? Halves, exactly right. So think about how you would label this number line from 0 to 1. What would you put in here? You would put 1/2. Go ahead and let's draw this number line now because we're going to add on to it and we're going to get the bigger numbers in as well. Go ahead and draw this to start. You could pause. Okay, did you get it drawn? If you still need to go get your notebook and your pen, go get it now, rewind and pause. So we have 0, 1/2, and 1. Should we draw 1/2 here again? Not just 1/2. We have to look at the whole numbers. The whole number is 1 and 1/2. Remember, we just put a little space. We don't actually write and. And then for our next one, we would write 2 and 1/2. And again, the and is just a space. So your number line looks something like this. Now we're going to get to the new stuff now that we're warmed up. I'm actually going to divide my number line into more parts. As I do it, I want you to think, how many parts is each whole divided into now? So remember, if you're looking at each whole, you could take one example whole and look at it. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. So what do we call when a whole is divided into 4 parts? Fourths. Fantastic. So we could label and count by fourths. We go 0, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. We could say 4/4, but same on top, same on bottom, always equal to 1. So now we go 1 and 1/4, same pattern. 1 and 2/4, 1 and 3/4, and 2. And now we go 2 and 1/4, 2 and 2/4, 2 and 3/4, and 3. Go ahead and label this on your number line now. So you'll need to pause. Okay, did you get it done? If not, just rewind and you could write it down yourself. So when we are counting, we are looking for something really interesting with this label right here. What do you notice is special about this label right here? You might have noticed that it has a label on bottom and a label on top. When we're doing fractions, we look at the denominator to decide which label is better to use. The denominator is the bottom number. The bottom number here is 2. The denominator or the bottom number is 4. When we're choosing which fraction to use, we know that these are the same. 1/2 is the same size as 2/4. We could say either, but we usually pick the fraction with the smaller denominator. That's the one we use. So we would cross out this one and we wouldn't use that one. We would say 0, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, 1. Okay? So let's take a look at the next one too. This tick mark also has 2 labels. So pick the one with the smaller denominator to use. This denominator is 4, this denominator is 2. This one's a bigger denominator. This one's a smaller denominator. So I'm going to say 1 and 1/2. I won't usually say 1 and 2/4 when I'm measuring. And let's look at the next one, 2 and 2/4 or 2 and 1/2. You see the pattern? We're going to keep using 2 and 1/2. We're not going to use 2 and 2/4. We use the one with the smaller denominator. So that's how we're going to count. Go ahead and pause and cross out the 2/4 so you know that even though you could say it, you wouldn't say it that way. you could pause. Okay. Let's go ahead and practice. And I'm going to have you guys label the number line in fourths to the nearest fourth of an inch between 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5. Remember, as you do this, you could write 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, right? You could do that. But remember, 2/4 is equivalent, or it's the same as 1/2. And when we're writing, we're going to choose to say 1/2 when we measure things, okay? So let's do the very first part together. I'll get you started, and then you can do the rest on your own. I notice my whole number is 2. I'm going up, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's 4 parts, so I'll go up by fourths. And I won't just say 1/4. I won't do that. I will say 2 and 1/4. Then I'll say 2 and 1/2. And then 2 and 3/4. I want you guys to finish letter A and do letter B. You could pause now. Okay, let's go ahead and check our work. We already got to 3. We're going to go 3 and 1/4, 3 and 1/2, 3 and 3/4. Good, always writing the whole number first. 4, then it's 4 and 1/4, 4 and 1/2, 4 and 3/4, and 5. Letter B. We start at 7, we go up to 7 and 1/4, 7 and 1/2, 7 and 3/4, and 8. Next we go 8 and 1/4, 8 and 1/2, 8 and 3/4, and 9. So you could pause here to check to make sure you got it right and that you put the whole number first and then the fraction second. And make sure you wrote 1/2 instead of 2/4. Okay. Usually on a ruler, only whole numbers are labeled. So we're actually going to do an exercise where you don't have to write, you just have to point. So I would like us to think about where we would point to where 4 and 3/4 is. Because on a ruler, you would just know, you wouldn't be writing it. So 4 is here, and we go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, there's 4 parts, so we'll go up by fourths. Is it this one? Nope, that's 4 and 1/4. Is it this one? Nope, that's 4 1/2. Is it this one? Yes, that's 4 and 3/4. So you could also point to the screen when we do our next activity. All right, so here's our next activity, our next exercise, letter C. Where is 6 and 1/2? You do not need to pause. You could just point now. Are you pointing right here? Great job. Okay, go to letter D. Where is 7 and 1/4? Think about where that would be. Are you pointing right here? Good. That's 1/4 more than 7. The last one, where is 8 and 3/4? Okay, think about where you're going to point. Okay, I'm not pointing here. That's 1/4. That's 1/2. This is 3/4. You should be pointing here. Really nice. Okay. Now I'm really going to show you a ruler. I made a ruler that's exactly the right size. It's a little bit small for me to show you. You might have seen this in our last lesson. Last time I only had 1/2 inches on there in the black, but today I added very small 1/4 inch. And so now there's 4 parts in each hole. This is pretty small for us to see, so I'm gonna just use a zoomed in or bigger one just for practice. So we can measure in 1/4 inches. So you can tell it's an inch because I wrote my inch label. This ruler and some rulers that you use, the 0 is not at the very end, it's right here. That will be important for our next exercise. This space is 1/4 of an inch. We write 1/4 of an inch. We don't need to write the of, we just write IN for inch. Or you could say 1/4 inch. That's another way to say it. So we normally won't write on our rulers, but to practice, we're actually gonna, I do want you to create another ruler and to label it, okay? That way when we go to measure and do our practice, you can check yourself. So we'll write down here 1/4. I don't need to write the unit every single time because I already know it's inches. And then you could write 1/2, and you could write 3/4, and you could write 1. Think about what's going to come next. It's going to be 1 and 1/4, and we'll keep going. Go ahead and pause now. See if you can fill out the ruler all the way up to a little bit past 2 inches. Okay, you could pause. All right, did you get to finish? You can always take a little longer and go back and pause so you get to finish. Let's fill it out 1 inch, and then this is 1 and 1/4, 1 and 1/2, 1 and 3/4, and 2. 2 and 1/4, 2 and, should I say 2/4? No, we always say 1/2, even though 1/2 is the same as 2/4. That's the order it goes in: 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. Really nice. So we now have a labeled practice ruler, and I think we're ready to do it kind of like many people do it without the labels. We're going to now be measuring lines with a 1/4 inch ruler. Okay, fantastic. This is the green line. Notice it starts right at the 0. That makes it a little easier because I can just count up and it'll match. This is 1 and it matches with the number 1. So 1 does not go all the way to 2. So 1 whole and 1/4. No, it's longer than that. 1/2, like 2 parts. It's longer than 1/2. 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. It's about 1 3/4 inches long. So I would say this line is 1 3/4 inches. I just wrote IN for inches. Okay, great. Now I'm going to give you guys 3 exercises. It's the blue, which is letter F, the red, which is letter G, and the H. Don't let this trick you. Notice that this one, letter H, does not start at 0. Okay, to the nearest 1/4 inch. How long are these lines? Go ahead and pause now, and you could write how long the lines are. Okay, let's write our answers together. How long are the lines? This one, F, goes, I'm trying to look, it goes from 0 to 1. I'm going to give you a strategy. I should have given you this before the exercise, but it's okay. If you follow this line up, the blue line, it kind of aligns. You can see it starts right at 0. 1 goes all the way to here, goes longer. Okay, it goes all the way down to here. What is this? This one is 1 and 1/2. Fantastic. 1 and 1/2 inches. Okay, this one's easier to see. It's a little lower. So this starts at 0. It's 1 inch. It goes to 2 inches. It goes a little longer. Let me follow it down and see. It goes down to here. That's 2 and 1/4. Great. Okay. Next, we have the purple one. This one's tricky. You have to look at how many holes it is. There's just 1 hole here. It goes from 1 to 2, but this line isn't all the way long, right? So this is 1 hole plus 1 more 1/4. So I would say this line is 1 and 1/4 inch long. My letter H. And that's great. So for the rest of your practice, I'm actually going to show you a game online that you could use to practice. So I'm going to turn it around and show you my laptop. Okay, this is on abcya.com/games/measuring, and I will show that at the end. It's called Strolling with My Nomies, a measuring game. I click the play button, and then I'm going to choose inches because that's what we're studying. I'm going to choose quarters. If you want a challenge, you could try eighths, okay, but let's do quarters first to practice this lesson. And then you could play. And you get to pick what you want to measure and see how long it is. You can pick any of them. And it'll make you figure it out. So that's 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. So I go in and I put 1. I have to put a space. Remember, I can't say and. I just put a space. 1 and 3/4. I click check, and I got it. And the game keeps going like that. So I recommend that you do that to practice because there's not really any good Khan Academy practice for measuring. So I would do that, but then you can always go on Khan Academy to continue practicing other skills. Thank you guys for coming. All right, here is our game. Okay, bye.